Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. If you've never attended one of these events before, welcome. I am Kendall Fisher, and I'm the Senior Media Production Manager, as well as resident on-air host here at NetSuite. And today is an exciting day as we are celebrating 10 years of our Business Development Representative, or BDR, program here at NetSuite. I am so excited to share stories with you from three awesome employees who started their career journeys as BDRs. We'll hear about their roles today, how the BDR program really set them up for success in their careers, and advice for anyone else who might want to join the BDR program too, whether that's you or perhaps someone you know. Now, before we dive into all of that and all of our awesome interviews, it's super important to share some interesting stats from our program. The BDR program started with less than 20 reps and has grown into over 1,000 reps today. That is incredible. 1,300 BDRs have been promoted into global sales since the first year of the program back in 2012. And over 100 NetSuite leaders began their careers as BDRs. So some really successful statistics coming out of the program. And today we're actually going to hear from three people who are honestly examples of these incredible statistics. We have Neema Moghadam, RVP for Products West. We have Jonathan Elosegui, Senior Sales Director for High Tech, and then Hannah Brandser, Account Executive for Consumer Packaged Goods. At the end of today's event, we'll be opening it up to a live Q&A with our panelists. So make sure that you use the comments section to ask any questions you may have for them. And in the interim, just drop a hello. Tell us where you're tuning in from. You know you're joining from all different parts of the world, and we really want to shout out to you right back. So now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Neema, Jonathan, and Hannah. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Thanks so much for joining us. To kick things off here, I know I mentioned your roles in the introduction, but why don't each of you remind everyone what you do here at NetSuite? And since I asked our audience the same, why don't you tell us where you are joining from? We'll start with you, Neema.
Sure. Neema Moghadam, as you mentioned. Thanks, Kendall. Excited to be here. And thanks for all the attendees and viewers out there. You showed up, and that's the first step. So congrats. I'm looking forward to a great session here. Neema Moghadam, as I mentioned, out of Denver, Colorado. I'm our regional vice president for our products vertical. So I have 4 sales teams that report to me, and we focus on bringing on new clients into NetSuite.
Awesome. Thank you. Hannah, over to you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Kendall, and hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Brandser. I'm tuning in from Austin, Texas. Great spot to be. I am an account executive here at NetSuite, and I support what we call our consumer packaged goods segment in the emerging space. So similar to Neema, I'm focusing on all new clients, bringing them onto NetSuite and helping them to grow and expand their businesses.
That's great. Jonathan, finally, how about you?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm coming from Los Angeles. I'm based out of the Santa Monica Oracle NetSuite Hub. My role here at NetSuite, I'm a senior director in the high-tech space. So similar to Neema, similar to Hannah, bringing in new business, I oversee a team of 7 account executives, strictly working in the mid-market and corporate space. So happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to sharing a little bit more about our background and our story.
Yeah, well, and I think it only makes sense. We are celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the BDR program, so it only makes sense for me to ask you all, what year did you partake in the BDR program? I know you had different roles in there, but Hannah, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as a BDR right out of college in October of 2019, so just almost 3 years ago.
Jonathan, what about you?
I started it in the BDR program in 2008, actually came from the Oracle side, a little bit different of a backstory, which we'll learn here soon. But I was in the BDR program as a BDM for 2 years, 2018 and 19.
Got it, 2018. When you said 2008, I was like, whoa, that's a long time. 2018.
2018.
And Neema, finally, what about you?
Yeah, I started 3,650 days ago, or in 2012. So 10 years.
Who's counting though, right? Who's counting? That's amazing. So you were part of that OG class, Neema. So I'm actually going to turn to you for this one. What is our BDR program?
Sure. Yeah. So the BDR program is a 15 to 18 month entry level program for people who are motivated and interested in a career in sales. So it's got two core missions. One is at the top of the funnel, working with new leads and new interested businesses and qualifying those companies to understand if they're a good fit for NetSuite. But it's also got a huge talent development component to it, because BDRs are the future sales individuals and sales leaders at our company. And we have such a promote within culture that we really invest in these individuals from a talent perspective, as well as having them drive the top of the funnel leads.
Yeah, I mean, you just named some like incredible things that we do through the program and some great benefits as to why you'd want to join the program. But you joined the first year of the NetSuite BDR program. So I'm curious, like what made you want to join the program 10 years ago at the very, very start?
Yeah, I mean, for me, as I was looking for my first job, I really wanted a company that had the resources and the foundation for success in order to propel my career. And I really found a lot of comfort in the resources at NetSuite, the investment that they made in the program and the people and the reputation of the company. And I was debating between a startup versus a bit of a bigger company. And there were some nerves with joining a bigger company, but for me, I doubled down on the concept that this company is going to give back to me just like I'm going to give to the company. And that has paid off over the last 10 years.
I mean, it certainly has. You are now an RVP, like we talked about, but can you take us on your career journey from BDR in 10 years ago through today, where you are today as an RVP?
Yeah, absolutely, Kendall. So started as a BDR, as I mentioned, and there was a outbound calling component to it. There was an inbound where we're receiving interest from our website and other social resources. After that, I was an account executive, which means that you're a sales rep and you work with net new customers. So I did that for 3 years and had a great stint there and learned a ton. I was focusing on our manufacturing company, so selling to companies that manufacture things, which was fascinating, and learned a lot there. Then went on to be a manager. So I managed my team for 3 years and had about 7 to 8 account executives or new business sellers. So I learned about leadership and the people component to it. And then over the last 3 years, I'm on my 3rd year here in this role as an RVP. Now I help lead our leaders and I coach our leaders, and I'm focused on creating a climate for success within our organization. So it's been a great ride. And I think this company really invests in its own people and gives people a shot, right? I was never a manager before, but somebody said, hey, you could probably be a manager. You could probably be an RVP. And that's the culture that we live within. Yeah,
that's amazing. It is so cool to hear that journey and to hear just like how far you've come here with NetSuite. I'm proud to work with people like you and see these people, like see you just really climb your way to the top and really instill that culture of, promoting from within and really just supporting our colleagues. And we are going to get into that in a little bit. But first, I need to give some shout outs to people that are tuning in right now. We have so many people tuning in. A lot of shout outs coming towards you guys as well. So really quickly, greetings from Dallas, Texas. That's Artie. Joseph is in Austin. Sarah from McKinney, Texas. One of my high school best friends grew up in McKinney, Texas. So shout out to you. We have Lewis from the UK, Kerman from Ashland, Oregon. Hi, Kerman. Allison also joining from Oregon. Trevor says Neema is a legend, and I think we just decided that in the last bit of our conversation, 1,000%. Katie in Louisiana. We have Philip joining us from Georgia. Jonathan says the Nashville hub says hello. Hello in Nashville. Juan from Nashville.
Hello, Nashville.
Wow. Ismail from Ivory Coast. Brenda from Knoxville, Tennessee. I mean, they just keep coming in. Toma from Seattle. Paul from Buffalo, New York. Gregory from Denver, Colorado. Susie from LA. I know, Jonathan, you just said you're in LA. I'm in Santa Monica out of our Santa Monica hub. So fun to see all those LA people tuning in. Keep shouting out to us. Keep telling us where you're tuning in from. I will come back and get to all of the others that are streaming in right now. We love that you all are joining us. This is such an important program to NetSuite. And so keep tuning in, keep asking questions, and keep commenting, keep shouting out. But for now, Hannah, I'm going to send it over to you. What made you want to join the BDR program in 2019, right after graduating college?
Yes, that is a great question. So when I graduated college, really, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to enter the real world. And what am I going to do? I didn't know if I wanted to go into maybe a marketing career or sales or what it was. But really, what was important to me was finding a company where I was going to be supported and the promotion path was very outlined and clear and doable. And so I interviewed a few different places, but really, as soon as I had my on-site interview at NetSuite, it was a no-brainer for me. My manager that I connected with at my interview just really echoed exactly what I wanted in my career out of college. And then the really cool part about the BDR program as well is that you are starting with a group of individuals that's all relatively similar to you in age. So it really makes that transition coming out of college a lot better, if you want to say, because you're not being thrown into a role where you're filling a spot, you're working with, people that are maybe a little different ages of you. And it really just brought me right in. And I can say to this day that I've made some of my best friends through this program. This weekend, for example, I'm going to visit one of my best friends that just got engaged. So we all keep in touch, and it's really created such a great network of people. But ultimately, what got me here and has kept me to stay is really the support that you have at NetSuite, all of the amazing resources, and then to the point of Neema just explaining his background here, where you can really take your career.
Yeah, I mean, tell me, where did you go from there? So you finished up the program in 2020, and how have you grown since then?
Yes, exactly. So I went from the BDR program to support an emerging CPG team here. And I did that for a year and a half. And now actually on Monday, I start in our mid-market segment supporting products companies. So moving up to that segment, and I'm super stoked about it.
Moving on up. We'd love to hear that. Congratulations on the new role. And that's an exciting new chapter to begin, Hannah. Can't wait to hear more about it. Now, obviously, Jonathan, I'm not going to skip over you. I know you have a bit of a different story.
I do.
You mentioned you were a BDM in 2018. What is a BDM, and what did your role entail?
Yeah, so I was a business development manager, and that was my gateway into the BDR program. Like I mentioned, I came over from the Oracle side of the house. Based there in Santa Monica, I quickly learned that the NetSuite culture is somewhere that I wanted to be. I did my research. There was an opportunity to come over to the NetSuite side as a BDM in December of 2018. So I was able to come in. I managed 2 business development teams in the years of 2019 and obviously in 2020 during the pandemic. And it just really taught me a lot about NetSuite, the culture. Had a great experience of taking entry-level folks right out of college and seeing them 12 months later speak with confidence about our system, about ERP, talking to different business personas. Yeah, I just really enjoyed my time being a leader in that space. Something that I'm very proud of, when I came into the Santa Monica space, we only had 20 BDRs in Los Angeles. And we grew that in a matter of 2 years to 110 BDRs. So I was part of that team that grew Santa Monica. And it was just a really cool experience to see that office grow and explode to what it is today.
Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, what kind of made you want to help build out that team? What made you want to manage BDRs?
So, like I mentioned, I really wanted to join the NetSuite team. Yeah. My backstory is a little bit different. I was in the Navy for 10 years prior to going to college. So right after college, I got my start in sales, and there was a lot of people in my background in my life that took time to give back to me in order for me to go from a military career into a professional space. And I wanted to give that back to entry-level folks, right? I wanted to be that guide. I wanted to be that leader that was there every day, right? And just make sure that folks really understood that they have an amazing opportunity being a BDR at NetSuite. So wanted to give back for 2 years, step out of sales, and be more of that pre-business, and just develop folks and just be a guiding light the way a lot of people have been, like Neema, who's been a great mentor to me. Wanted to give that back to BDRs.
Very cool. And how has your role since being a BDM evolved? Like, where are you today?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was a BDM for 2 years. After that, I got the opportunity to join an emerging space, the emerging space as a regional director. So I managed a team of 8 emerging reps, and we were working in the general services space there out of Santa Monica. And then just recently in June, so June 1st, I joined the mid-market corporate space, working with high-tech companies. So software companies, services companies, just a really cool space to be in. And again, I feel very humbled to be part of this team.
Very cool. Congrats to you as
Thank
well,
you.
both of you. That's very, very exciting. Now, Neema, Hannah, you actually mentioned this, and it's such a good point. You both joined the BDR program pretty soon after graduating college, and I really do think that's so interesting because, as I can very well remember, it is pretty shocking making the transition from college to the real world in a full-time job. So how did the BDR program really help with that transition? Hannah, I'm going to start with you since you did kind of touch on this before.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like in terms of the transition, it just made it a lot easier because, you're training with individuals that are, your age and going through this all together. And throughout that training process and all of that, you're doing fun events and things in this new cool city that you just moved to. So it just made it so much more, fun having that experience as a team together and really creating that bond so that when we actually went ahead and started our roles as like live BDRs, getting inbound leads and all of that, it was so much more fun. We had already had the basis of great teamwork and friendships, and we were really able to learn from each other and laugh off some calls that maybe didn't go so well, but then also work with each other on different tactics and strategies that were like, hey, this worked for me, you should try this, and really just having that collaborative team environment.
And remind me, what city were you in the BDR program with?
Austin.
Okay, got
yes.
it. Great.
Yep. Best city ever.
Still have never been somehow. And I know that this is obviously our new headquarters, and I still have yet to go. So at some point I'll make my way to Austin.
You gotta.
But Neema, how about you? Like, what made that, what about the BDR program made the transition from college to full-time job a little bit easier?
I think Hannah touched on it. It's really about the camaraderie in the community. It's an amazing social experiment of drawing people from different parts of the country with different backgrounds who are different majors, from different walks of life, and you put them all together, and it's pretty eye-opening how you create the most amazing friendships. And by the way, your coworkers and you're working through them. When you get to understand somebody at that level, it just makes work so much better. I thought leaving from college into the corporate world, I'd have to look a certain way and pretend a certain way and put on my mask and then go do my work and then take it off and then I could be myself again. But what I learned quickly, especially with the BDR program, is like you can actually bring your authentic self to work and bring your whole self to work. And there's something really magical about the learning that takes place in there, the comfort that takes place in being with your peers. So I think that was probably the most eye-opening piece. But just being alongside and having that shared experience with other people, it really brings you together and it makes it so much better.
Any names, Neema, you want to shout out to really quick from that first BDR class that's here 10 years later?
Oh gosh, we have a ton. We have a text thread that blows up, every other day with different pictures and where, here's another wedding and another wedding. I've been to more BDR weddings and weekend getaways and vacations and stuff like that. So I won't go through the full list, but there are some top ones. And the best part about it is you look across the peers and you see, this person's a VP on the account management side, on the direct business side, AVP. So it's just you kind of come up with the class. And I thought that, hey, as a BDR, I would never know somebody who's a senior leader within a company or other companies or within the network, but you end up getting so big within your network. And then it gets makes things happen quicker and easier internally as well, right? My day-to-day is better now because I could go reach out and walk 2 offices down and talk to a colleague that I have this baseline foundation with.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I want to kind of swap this over. So from a management perspective, from a BDM perspective, how is this program really set up to help recent grads adjust? I mean, we heard from Hannah and Neema both, it's all about those colleagues and having people that are in a similar boat to you, but What other ways is it set up to really kind of make that transition a bit easier?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just teaches you to collaborate with 9 other folks, like Neema's mentioned, from different walks of life, different places, within the United States, even international, right? And while you have your individual goal, right, everyone's trying to get promoted into that account executive or account management role. For 12 months, you have to lean on each other and collaborate with each other, and that goes a long way, right? Just driving towards a team goal. It was really, really cool to see folks from day one not knowing each other. And like Neema said, at the end of that 12 months, you really do walk away with some of your best friends in life. So, being on this side, right, and being a BDM and observing that in the office, it was a real delight to see those relationships come to fruition while they were carving out a great opportunity here at NetSuite.
Yeah, that's great. And kind of along similar lines, but more logistically speaking, you mentioned that the BDR program is 12 months. Can you tell us a bit about how it works? Like how is the actual, like what is the day-to-day, what's happening day-to-day, week to week, month to month, and how does that help our BDRs build the foundation for their future careers?
It is a busy 12 months, right? You are learning how to be a professional. You're learning how to be a team member. And you're also learning how to have a discussion around a very complex system, but in a very productive and confident way. And at the same time, you are learning, right? You're learning the system excellence. You're learning to different companies, different buying personas that are going to be interested in our ERP. So in those 12 months, there's different steps, right? There's different stairways. So month 1 and 2 are very basics. Once you get into month 3, 4, and 5, things start ramping up. And by the end of that 12th month, you should be very comfortable in picking up the phone, doing some outreach, and just having a confident conversation around our ERP system. So it is a learning experience, but it's also an experience where you're going to get pulled in different ways, challenged. And if you're up for it, it's just, I can't speak highly enough of the program. It's definitely a delight to be part of.
And Hannah, you were, again, in the program most recently, 2019 to 2020. So from a member's perspective, can you tell us a bit about what your day-to-day looked like from the beginning of the program through the end and how that evolved over your 12 months there?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I went through the BDR program, we sat in inbound for 3 months and then outbound for 9 months. So just to give a high level idea of what that means, inbound is you're getting leads coming to you. So maybe somebody's interested in seeing a demonstration or they looked into some CFO content we have online, you name it. Where outbound, you're locating these accounts and you're reaching out on a more cold type outreach. So to Jonathan's point, when you're in that inbound phase, you're really learning the basics of how to approach these leads, different company types, what their needs are, who the correct people are to reach out to, with already having those leads and being able to get an understanding of what we refer to here as BANT, which is just for key criteria areas in order to send up a sales qualified lead to an account executive. Now, transitioning into outbound, this was a very pivotal part of the BDR role because you're learning to find these accounts that are good fits for NetSuite, and you get the opportunity to actually be assigned to several different reps that have been in seat for a decent amount of time. So you're getting exposure to see these reps actually work these leads, go through the evaluation process with different companies, seeing that process in real time. And that's where I really felt like I started to learn. And one of the biggest things I learned is that, your success at NetSuite is really in your own hands. And so that really gave me the sales drive that when it came up time for promotions, I was ready to, be an account executive and actually run these on my own. But the beginning is really the basics. That last 9 months is where you're really starting to actually develop your career, learn so much about the product, how to sell, and then just how to leverage your resources internally and really build that network.
So if you could whittle it down to like 3 core skills that you learned in the program, what would you say?
Yes, I would say first would be resourcefulness. So knowing who to go to when, really creating that network of people so that you're not, asking your manager 1 million questions per day. I would just say, I know it sounds pretty typical, but hardworking. If you're in a sales career and you really don't have that hard work aspect, it's hard to teach. So if you're a driven young individual and you want to advance quick in your career and make some great money, that's a great skill I learned that I had and was really able to put to use. And then I would just say, lastly, really learning how to collaborate in a team environment where there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things happening, but really learning how to best show up in all of those situations, and really problem solve and create strategy to move through whatever, the obstacle may be.
Neema, I'm going to ask you the same question. Again, you're running such a major sector of the business today. How did the BDR program set you up for success?
Yeah, for me, and actually before I answer the question, I wanted to go back to shouting out some BDRs. It's kind of like a Grammy speech. If you start going through the list, you forget people. So I didn't want to go down that route. But since then, I've looked at my O18, which stands for Original 18, which is the original BDRs. I looked at that text thread. I wanted to give a big shout out to Kendall, who runs a big part of the BDR org, Monica, Kevin, Jill, Justin, and Caitlin. So a huge shout out to some friends that happen to also be coworkers.
Good job. That was a good Grammy speech.
Yeah, there you go. I have to have it written down. So I think for me, it was really about learning about people and how that's carried on, especially as a people leader. And in my current role, I think it's just understanding that there are many different paths to success. It does, sales and having a successful career doesn't just have one mold and one walk of life with one background. And we have such an inclusive environment here that it was eye-opening for me. And that's something that I take on today is like, not everybody's like me. And they're also still really, really successful. And you can learn from that. So I think I've taken that from a leadership philosophy perspective, that there are different ways to do things. There are different backgrounds. There are different perspectives. And as a good leader, I need to step into their shoes from their angle and understand with empathy why they might be thinking these ideas and these approaches, and then help them be the best version of themselves. So it's really around people and people management.
Wow, that's something I'm going to write down immediately after we end this podcast. That's a really, really great note. Now I'm gonna ask you the same thing. If you could whittle it down to like 3 core skills you took away from the BDR program that you still utilize to this day, what would they be?
I think it's communication, and communication has to do with 2 directions. One is actually verbalizing what you're thinking and getting things done through verbalization, but a lot of communication comes from listening and understanding. So I think it really taught me to slow down and understand and seek to understand rather than being understood. So I think it's that piece. And I remember sitting down at my desk, we did all this training and now it's time to pick up the phone and call somebody. And I remember that phone looked real heavy on my desk. I'm like, wait, I have to actually pick up the phone. What do I say? So I think just kind of being brave and breaking those boundaries and trying new things. And then the next piece is just authenticity and just bringing your whole self to work, like I've talked about before.
Yeah, that's great. I want to, again, we have so many shout outs coming in. I want to take a brief pause and make sure I get to some of those before we finish up our conversation here and then open it up for Q&A from the audience. But some shout outs first. Sydney from Austin, Travis from Cameron, North Carolina, Linnea from Corpus Christi, Texas, Roland from Denver, Faisal from India, Syed from the UK, Kyle from Denver, who says, I agree, Neema is a legend. Monica also says hi from Denver, Frank from Barcelona, Spain, Ian from Pennsylvania, Rebecca from Nashville, Brighton from Dallas. Shaheen has a question that we will get to that at the end of our conversation here, Shaheen. And then we have Matthew from Milwaukee, Anna, shalom from Israel. Hi, Anna. Ezekiel, greetings from Argentina. Tatiana said, Hannah, great talking points. So shout out to you, Hannah. Jose from Mexico, Sean from New Hampshire, Raju from India, and then Monica says 10 years, 018 OG, which I love. Garish from France, Steve from North Carolina. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't stop shouting out. Tell us where you're tuning in from. Again, we're going to get to as many of those as possible, but more importantly, we are going to wrap our conversation here in a minute. We're going to open it up to a live Q&A from the audience. We do have a few questions that have come in that I have taken note of, and I will definitely be asking those. But for now, Jonathan, so we talked about some of these skills and what the day-to-day of the BDR program looks like, but what happens after the BDR program is over? Like, how do you become a Neema or a Hannah and get into these other roles beyond the BDR program?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that, after you graduate from the BDR program and you go into an account executive role or an account management role, you do take those relationships with you. I mean, you just went through a special 12 months with hopefully, right, some of your best friends. So not losing that perseverance that you had those first 12 months, everyone comes into the BDR program fired up, ready to go get after it, right? So carrying that fire, carrying that perseverance, and then just growing your network, right? I mean, you are going to move up in the company with folks that you were a BDR with, right? Someone who you sat in the trenches with next to for 12 months. One of my favorite things about carving out a path here at NetSuite is everyone has an open door policy, because if you did come from the BDR program, you get it, right? Like you can go to Neema, you can go to a Monica, you can go to a Kendall and a Jillian, right? That are senior leaders at this company, but guess what? They picked up that phone 50, 60 times 10 years ago, right? So they understand what you went through. And if you nurture those relationships and those networks, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, how do I get this done, right? Can you come in and executive align on any deal? And I know that I have that relationship with, like I said, with Neema in my network. So, after the BDR program, the relationships doesn't stop, right? The collaboration doesn't stop. And as long as you keep up with folks, right, and you stay interested in what you're doing, you can collaborate with each other and go as high as you set yourself to. So.
Yeah, that's great. Neema, Hannah, anything you'd add to that? Anything about the process from making the transition after graduating from the program into a new role?
Go ahead, Neema.
I think why I like it is it's very structured. You have a good sense of when the BDR program is winding down. You have a good sense of what roles are available. There's a lot that goes into the lead up there. It's not this mystery that, now the BDR wants to get promoted. So there's a lot of collaboration and networking that goes into that. There's some great conversations that go into that. There's mentorships that go into that. So for me, trying to exit the BDR program after my tenure there, it gave me a lot of comfort to know that this is a facilitated program with an expected result rather than now I need to go figure it out. So I think it really fosters that promotion within type of culture that we talked about.
That's awesome. Really, really great point there. Hannah, anything? I don't want to go on to my next question if you want to that, but if you're good.
No, I would just echo what Neema and Jonathan said, really. I think one thing that really shines through as I've gone through the promotion and just went through another rounds is really just the relationships I've created here, and that having that network. Like Jonathan said, everyone has an open door policy. So if you're ever looking for some mentorship or advice, I mean, I personally talk to BDRs all the time that are going to go through promotions and they're looking for advice, but I just did the same thing as I was going up for this most recent promotion. And so really being able to leverage that network and create great relationships helps that transition greatly.
Yeah. That's actually something too, Jonathan, I want to talk to you about. Again, from a BDM side, it's a little different from the BDR, from like graduating from that program and then moving on up. So like, how did the BDR program, being a BDM over the BDR program, how did that set you up for success in your following roles through today? And actually, somebody asked a question about this in the comments, asking how you can move out of that role as a BDM and into like an AE role or something.
Right. I mean, I think the biggest thing that the BDM role taught me those 2 years was just to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Like it's very easy to get lost in BDR Island, right? This is what I used to tell my teams. But just opening yourself and being comfortable to reaching out to folks that are in different hubs, right? Different locations. With Slack and Zoom that opened up, we work in one big hub now. That's what, the cool thing about, I guess, about 2020. But it just really taught me that, like, if I wanted to get to a role that inspired me or I was interested in, I made a checklist and I said, who's in that role and how can they help me and how can I help them, right? So again, I mean, just to answer your question, those 2 years just taught me to stay hungry, right? I mean, I saw the hunger that my BDRs brought in every day, and that motivated me to be hungry as well, and what I wanted to do here at NetSuite, right? Which was get to that emerging space as a regional director, get to that high tech space as my current role now, and not stop until I'm a Neema or I'm a Sam Levy or those great leaders that lead us every day, and that comes from the BDR program day in and day out.
Great. I'm going to wrap it up here. Jonathan, one question for you. What does NetSuite's BDR program, and Hannah and Neema, you guys might be able to answer this as well, so feel free to chime in, but what does NetSuite's BDR program offer that others do not?
That's a good question. Like Neema said, structure. Like I mentioned, I'm a Navy guy. I love structure. You know exactly where you're at all times in the BDR program, and it is up to you to know if you're going forward or you're being left behind. And I think that structure. I think that we don't overpromise. We tell you this is what it is. Get after it, and we're going to help you get there, right? So, I've seen other programs. I've been part of other programs that are great when I started my sales career. But that structure, right? That if you do this, trust me, if you buy into the process, you will get to where you want to. And that comes from, that great leadership that goes into that BDR org. So.
Oh, that's great. Neema, Hannah, any thoughts there? I don't know, Hannah, in 2019, if you were looking into other BDR programs and what stood out about NetSuite?
Yeah, I would absolutely echo what Jonathan said, like hit the nail on the head there. Other things that really drew me in were really just that culture that I could feel. They had panels of current BDRs come speak to us at my in-person interview, and you could just tell, you can just catch the energy of those people, of how much they actually enjoyed it and working with each other. And that was a culture that I wanted to be a part of. To Neema's point earlier, I didn't want to go someplace where I got to put my work face on, 5 o'clock hits, I got to go, now I get to go be myself. That was not something I was looking for. I wanted to be authentic throughout my entire days. And really that's what I felt from NetSuite, that it would give me the ability to do. And then really just everybody at this company wants the best for you. There's nobody that's, out to get you in any way, shape, or form. And I really feel that on a daily basis, whether I need a resource in a deal or I'm, interviewing or whatever it is, I never feel like I don't have a full network of people I can turn to. So really just feeling supported and having that culture that echoes that support.
That's great. Neema, anything you'd add?
Well, the only thing that I'd add there, I think we have a unique perspective on the BDR program as far as how it's so core to our mission and what we do in our business strategy. My perception of some other BDR programs is that it's kind of this small wing that doesn't get attention, doesn't get resources. I remember when we first started, we were at our sales kickoff conference and they had all the BDRs stand up and everybody, the whole auditorium was applauding the BDRs who stood up, including me. I felt like a celebrity. And for me, I was like, wow, this is a really important element to the overall company. We're not just like this sidearm that is just meant to drive top of the funnel. And that really has to do with talent development too, is like, we are the pipeline for talent, and the investment in the talent aspect, in addition to the qualifying leads aspect, is critical.
Amazing. Okay, you guys, we have so many questions coming in from the audience. I'm going to open it up, but I cannot end this without one final question for all of you. You guys have talked about just how much fun and how amazing the program has been, your involvement with it. So let's end on a fun note. What is one of your favorite memories with the BDR program? Jonathan, I'm going to start with you.
You're seeing the Santa Monica hub grow. Again, there was 20 BDRs in 2018. Not 2018. And just seeing 110 BDRs running around that office was a great experience, and it's something I'll always cherish. It was a special time before the world changed in 2020. The energy, you can't compare it. You can't compare it. And that's definitely one of my favorite things about the program.
That's great. Hannah, what about you?
Yeah, I would say my favorite memory was when we were all going through promotions. So there was a group of, I think it was like 16 of us when I was a BDR, and we were all going through, and everyone was just trying to figure out what their pathway was. And we were all so open and collaborative about sharing that with each other. So seeing everybody land the spots they wanted or move on to the next opportunity that really fit them well was super special. And then being able to just keep that close bond with everyone, regardless of where they went, I would definitely say that's a favorite for me.
That's great. Neema, we'll end with you.
I would say my favorite story was when we decided to rewrite the lyrics for Call Me Maybe, which was written by Carly Rae Jepsen. She's the artist. So we rewrote that to Call Me Maybe. We were late in the office in Boston, and we're doing take after take, and people are cracking up. So we have to keep refilming and refilming. And finally, it's the perfect take. And one of the BDRs is filming it with her phone, and she pans around, and then there's a stack of chairs in the corner. So she wants to get the aerial shot, climbs up, and then bang, falls down. And that was the end of the video. And that got to the final take. So it's just memories like that really stick with you.
Well, I mean, does this exist somewhere? Because I'm pretty sure I need to see this.
It might be deep down in the vault somewhere.
I think it does.
That's amazing. Okay, well, I want to open it up to the audience now. Again, we've had some questions coming in this whole time, so I am going to get to, again, as many of them as I possibly can. So I'm scrolling all the way back up because I want to make sure that I get some of the early questions that came in. Okay. Good. Ooh. Sorry, it would scroll all the way back down. So now I'm going to go back to the beginning. Oh, wow. Okay, from Carla, loving all the shout outs. A few questions. Is this only for recent college grads, or is this program also for someone looking for a career pivot? What's the next cohort for Austin? How many people are in each cohort? So whoever wants to take that and answer as much of that, I'll go through the questions again. But I think the first one is it only for recent college grads, or is it for someone looking for a career pivot?
I could help with that. So there's two components. One is the entry level with 0 to 2 years experience, basically college grads. And then there are light professional hires that have anywhere between 3 years experience to 6 years experience. Maybe there's a career pivot involved, but we're hiring from, the recruiting space, the retail space, anybody who's interested in sales, whether they have a few years experience or just recently graduating, would be relevant for the BDR program.
Great. And then how many people are in each cohort-ish? It probably is different all over the place, but around how many?
Yeah, I ran into one of our directors when I was in the office yesterday. And when I started, my cohort was 16 people, but I think they're close to 100-ish individuals now onboarding. And I know they have a class starting August 1st here, so on Monday.
August 1st in Austin. Amazing.
Yeah.
What is the hiring and onboarding process like? How long does it take to hear back after applying?
I can take this. Not long, right? We do understand that it's a process, right? We don't want to make folks wait. So basically, I believe it's still a 3-step process where you will have a phone interview with a recruiter. Then you'll actually talk to a live BDM. And if you did get passed through, you'll actually come on board in an office setting, and you'll have a whole day event where you're interviewing, you're going into different breakout rooms, you're actually involved in an exercise. And then after that, if you do get selected, then you come on board. So I believe it could take anywhere from 2 months to a month and a half, just depending on where you're at in the process. But it's fairly quickly, very streamlined.
Great. And then another question, this is coming from Linnea. What do the trainings look like? Is it personalized, self-paced, or one size fits all? How frequently is feedback provided?
Yeah, so I probably went through the trainings most recently, so I can call out what I remember here. But so the trainings, ours were about 2.5 weeks long in sort of a classroom type setting with the other individuals in your cohort. So for me, what that looked like is there was 2 managers, each with 8 individuals on the team. And we had a very collaborative type training. So as you're going through each section or piece of content that you're learning, there's usually collaborative type activities after. Maybe you break out into a group of 4 people or, 2 people or whatever it is. So the learning isn't, just a PowerPoint screen and it's like, remember this all. You're doing collaborative type of work to, really instill everything within you. So that at a high level is what the training looks like. There's no sort of, coursework per se or anything like that I had to complete when I went through it.
Awesome. I have to do a couple shout outs because we had one very special shout out. But first, we have Dana said hello from Austin, Alita from Denison, Texas, Michael from Oklahoma City, and Jonathan commented and said, it is Tatiana Carter's birthday today. So happy birthday to Tatiana Carter. Thank you for joining us on your special day. Happy birthday to you. Okay, so another question. Is a degree required for the BDR program?
Yes, bachelor's degree.
Bachelor's degree is required. Great.
And I saw a couple comments as well, Kendall, of like people who have applied before and maybe didn't get the role and they'd want to apply again. From my perspective, I would encourage you wholeheartedly to understand why maybe it didn't pan out last time, understand what you've done since that last interview, and then apply again. Remember, this is a sales role for people who are interested in sales. And what's a core characteristic of being successful in sales? It's perseverance. So what better indication of your perseverance and your desire for the role to reapply and make that a part of your story and your journey?
Somebody actually commented and said, shout out to Neema for his perseverance.
There you go.
His journey. So that was great. Look at that tie in there. And kind of along the same line, somebody asked, what are some characteristics that makes someone stand out in the interview process? And I think what you guys can just kind of speak from your own hiring. I mean, Neema, Jonathan, from your own hiring here at NetSuite in general.
I think someone who just show up and they're genuine about what they're trying to do, maybe not take themselves too seriously and not to be too stiff, but should just show a sense of self-awareness and professionalism. And if you combine that on an interview day, you will definitely stand out from the others and just wanted it more than the person next to you. That really always stood out to me when I was looking for a candidate to be part of my BDR teams.
Yeah, the other element is coachability, right? Is like your willingness to learn and take feedback and put it into action and not be defensive. So those are some of the things that we try to understand during a interview, because it's all about feedback. It's all about getting better. So we want that openness to be coached and willingness to improve.
That's great. Hey, Jonathan Brighton commented and said, what skills transferred over from the Navy into your role here at NetSuite today? Which is a great question.
That is a great question. What skills? Just not being afraid. When I joined the Navy, I'm from Florida and I took orders all the way to Japan. It was the scariest thing ever. So then joining the professional sector and just going after my dreams here at NetSuite could be a little bit daunting, but just not being afraid, putting my head down and going for it. That's what I learned from the Navy, and I apply it every day here at NetSuite.
That's great. Well, you guys, I think that we got through I think we got through all the questions. Some of them were duplicative, and we answered that about, if you weren't hired to the BDR program, just keep trying, come back and take what you learned from the first round and reapply it for this one. Anything that you guys want to highlight, Neema, Hannah, Jonathan, before we head out here?
I think my advice, if you're starting as your first day as a BDR, is just be open-minded, willing to meet different people and soak it all in and enjoy it. So that would be my advice for a BDR starting on their first day.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. And too, just the openness part, be open to the feedback, because that's one thing that I took on right when I started in this role, is making a point to ask for feedback after, different calls or things that I was doing. And I really think that's what has helped me to be successful here at NetSuite. So just echoing what Neema said, really.
Love that.
just be patient. Promotion day will come. So enjoy the 12 months. Enjoy being a BDR. Enjoy the friendships, and just be patient. Promotion day will come.
Amazing. We love that. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, for shouting out, for commenting and asking your questions. This was really engaging and fun for all of us. And thank you to Neema, Hannah, and Jonathan for joining us and sharing such amazing insights in your journeys and how you've utilized the skills working as part of the BDR program and utilize them in your roles today. So thank you so much. We've included a link in the caption for more information about the BDR program. So please utilize that to get if we didn't answer some of your questions, please utilize that to ask any questions. We've tagged Jonathan, Hannah, and Neema in the description of this event. So if you guys want to connect with them on LinkedIn, please go ahead and do that. I'm sure they will answer any additional questions that you have. And just thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure you give us a like, a follow, or subscribe to our channel for more content and conversations just like this. And with that, we bid you farewell. Thank you so much for joining us.